Hello and welcome to another weekly diagnosis, the show where I talk about all the nerdy stuff going on up here. This week I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of A Plague Tale Requiem, which may or may not require a top 100 game update. The Plague Tale Requiem starts off slow, but once the game gets going, it is an intense, nihilistic thrill ride. While I love Amicia and Hugo, the side characters are hit and miss, as they often feel completely out of place. That being said, one of the side characters does play a huge role in one of my favorite moments in the game. The ending, much like the first game, goes rat shit insane, and I think Asobo Studio was honestly just bragging about how many rats they could fit on the screen. From a narrative standpoint, the ending is emotional, and I never like saying none of it mattered because it's about the journey, but seriously, this game is on a whole new level of nihilism. But again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to storytelling. As far as gameplay goes, the game feels very much improved over the first game. Aiming the sling is thankfully way smoother, as it is obviously at the center of all combat and puzzle solving scenarios. So while the game does feel better to play, the design is where my biggest complaints of the game lie. Much like the first game, it is at its best when stealth and puzzles are combined, and at its worst when outright combat is forced upon you, and Requiem forces you into combat several times. Yes, the sling feels better, but it's still not perfect, and the combat scenarios are rather uninspired. Even my least favorite part of the first game was at least interesting in its design. There's also only a few truly clever puzzles in the game, and none of them reach the highs of the first game's puzzles. They give you so many tools in this game, which are definitely fun to experiment with and try different combinations to take out guards, but outside of taking out guards, I feel like I barely touched several of the tools. Requiem definitely went more action heavy than the first game, which essentially forced stealth, as if you were caught, you were dead. I prefer the stealth focus of the first game, as it makes the game much more intense throughout, but I can appreciate that some players might prefer the flexibility. Overall, A Plague Tale Requiem is a game that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it's certainly not without its memorable story beats, but uninspired combat scenarios, a lack of truly memorable level design, and shallow side characters hold this game back from being truly great. While I do still highly recommend playing A Plague Tale Requiem, I am as surprised as anyone that it will not be making my top 100 games list.